power!
Killer Frequency is a first-person horror adventure game that dropped in 2023, created and published by Team 17. Set in a small town back in 1987, you play as a DJ who becomes an unexpected radio dispatcher when a serial killer starts haunting the locals. Your job is to take calls from survivors and tackle different puzzles to help them dodge the killer. Critics generally gave it a thumbs up, highlighting its fun gameplay and blend of comedy and horror. The plot. The game kicks off with a quick scene featuring an unnamed character wandering through a dark alley, interacting with different objects until they reach a building. Once inside, they come face to face with a masked figure. Suddenly, the lights flicker out and back on, revealing that the character has been killed by the figure. You step into the shoes of Forrest Nash, a radio DJ who's made the move from Chicago to take over the late-night slot in Gallows Creek. The Whistling Man wrecks Leslie's car, and you can choose to help her as she tries to rescue Deputy Martinez and make a run for one of the patrol cars in the lot. Leslie hops in her car and heads to the closest town, with or without Deputy Martinez tagging along. She informs Forrest that she's moving the local 911 switchboard over to the radio station since they're the only ones around who know how to handle phone lines. She mentions that the trip will take about 2 to 3 hours each way, meaning they'll be flying solo until around 5 a.m. After that, the player starts getting a mix of regular calls, pranks, and emergencies. They have the chance to save Sandra Sharp, Maurice Russell, Virginia Sullivan, Eugene Stein, Murphy, Carrie and her crew, Chuck Brody, Roller Ricky, Teddy Gallows Jr., and even Peggy and Forrest themselves, or let them fall victim to the Whistling Man. Players step into the shoes of Forrest Nash, voiced by Josh Cowdery, a once famous DJ and radio host from Chicago who's moved to the quiet town of Gallows Creek after his career took a nosedive. When a serial killer known as the Whistling Man resurfaces 30 years after he was thought to be dead, Forrest finds himself acting as an emergency dispatcher. As the game unfolds, players will receive calls from the killer's potential victims and guide them on how to escape by tackling various puzzles and challenges. To keep the victims alive, players need to solve these puzzles using clues scattered around the studio. Aaron Riccio from Slant Magazine described it as a reverse escape room, where you give crucial hints to help others survive. The fate of the victims and the game's ending hinge on the player's decisions and puzzle-solving skills. There's a bunch of crumpled paper sitting on the DJ table that players can toss into a toy basketball hoop across the studio. You'll never run out of paper, and the game tracks how many shots you make in the pause menu. Most of the action happens in the studio, unless you need to wander around the building to find something. The game won't let you leave a room until you've finished all the story-related tasks available there. When chatting with another character, players will see a list of dialogue choices. These options can range from just changing the response you get to having serious life-or-death impacts on the game's characters. In the game, characters will reach out to the station, often being chased by the Whistling Man. Your job is to piece together clues scattered around the KFAM building, and info from previous callers to figure out how to help each one. You'll need to select the right dialogue options when responding to them. If you make too many wrong choices, the caller could end up in trouble. Luckily, there's no rush. You can take your time to think things over, and the caller will only be in danger if you don't pick the right responses. Once you finish a call, you'll need to play some tunes on the record player or an ad on the cassette recorder. During this downtime, Forrest and Peggy will chat about the game's lore and their next steps. The game won't move forward until you pick up the phone again, giving you a chance to relax. Just a heads up, there are moments when you can't save your progress. The main aim is to rescue as many callers as you can. The game reception. The game received mostly positive feedback, scoring an 81 on Metacritic, which shows that reviews were generally favorable. Critics highlighted the way it balanced tension with a campy, comedic horror vibe. Softpedia gave it 4 out of 5 stars, complimenting the voice acting and gameplay, but noted that the final act felt a bit rushed. Reina Cervantes from Bloody Disgusting appreciated how the game utilized the slasher genre, likening it to classic horror flicks like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Rachel Watts from Rock Paper Shotgun also praised the gameplay and puzzle aspects of Killer Frequency. Did you know? In the game, the Whistling Man is on a mission to track down and eliminate certain individuals connected to a prank that led to George Barrow, Marie's boyfriend, falling off Whistling Point. While she usually goes after those involved, she also targets Eugene Stein in the Maze as a sort of substitute, since his parents had a past with Marie and died in an accident before the game starts. Marie also goes after her sister Peggy for the same reason. The original version on Game Jolt had a different setup, with a smaller room where the player, Forrest, couldn't stand or move around freely.